You wake up, put on your Ray-Ban Meta glasses. You're living all in. You realize you need coffee. So you say,
"Hey, Meta, how do I make a latte?"
Brew 2 shots of espresso.
after Meta AI gets you caffeinated, you're ready for some beats.
"Hey, Meta, play hip-hop music."
You head to meet some friends, but can't remember the place.
"Hey, Meta, call Eva."
Ray-Ban Meta glasses, the next generation of AI glasses. Just say, hey, Meta, to harness the power of Meta AI. Shop now at meta.com/smartglasses.
Hey, it is Ryan Seacrest. There's something so thrilling about playing Chumba Casino. Maybe it's the simple reminder that with a little luck, anything is possible. ChumbaCasino.com has hundreds of social casino-style games to choose from with new game releases each week. Play for free anytime, anywhere for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
Deciding on what to listen to is hard. Using Zumo to stream music from iHeart 90s radio is easy. Or play iHeart Country or Hip Hop Beats. Your choice, all for free. Stream easy with Zumo Play. Get live and on-demand entertainment with no logins, no signups, no accounts, no hassle. This December, get cozy on the couch with Charlie's Angels starring Drew Barrymore, Lucy Liu, Cameron Diaz, and Looper starring Bruce Willis and Emily Blunt. All streaming free on Zumo Play. Go to play.zumo.com now. Life is hard. Zumo is easy.
Don't miss out on the Power Trip Morning Show when they take over Treasure Island on February 6th and 7th. Be there for tons of games, laughs, and great prizes, including Vegas trips to watch the big game. Book your stay using promo code KFAN for both the 6th and the 7th, and you'll save 15% to get the full details and book your stay today. Head over to KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
The parade of in-studio guests continues here. Gaardsy in for Barrero, 651 Carpets Plus Studio, 5 o'clock hour. We're out about 6:15. Lavelle's going to join about 45 minutes from now. His weekly appearance brought to you by Allery's. But now in studio, the man who sat in this chair 1 week ago, well, kind of. He was at the X in the Fallness candle-laden lair.
Chair.
Russo Radio, Michael Russo from The Athletic. Thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, man. It's been a long time since I was here, but my key card still worked, so that's good.
You're in the family.
Yeah. So I honestly don't remember the last time I was in studio. So
nothing's really changed except the microphones.
It had to be. I honestly don't remember. It might be even before the summer. So because I hosted once for PA, but that was also in Fallness's lair, and. I don't think there's been any others, and I don't think I've come in studio this season. So
don't you think we probably do need? We've done enough visual descriptions of Fallness's lair. We probably need some type of StreamYard from there, don't you think, Max? Like some type of we have enough pictures of Halvey floating around from there, but it's been updated, right?
Well, yeah, it has been. It smells great. And
first time for that.
Yeah, and
scratch and sniff pictures, maybe.
Yeah. And he does have cameras everywhere there. You can't do anything without being on camera because he now records Joe O'Donnell and Tom Reed during the game. So and there's also cameras down there. So he's basically a TV producer now with the podcast.
That's right.
Whatever they call that.
What I remember about the lair, it was like pre-Vox in the Box days. It was just when we would just do random shows. Mm-hmm. We definitely didn't have the radio rights because that was 2011. So this was when I was working 9 to noon. And I went it was PA and Dubé at the time. And I think it must have been the original Fallness lair before they did all of the stuff. Because there was a little side room where it was the smoking room.
Right.
Were you on the beat for the smoking room?
No, but I've heard about it. So I didn't know that thing existed, and then I did this big story about the cigar bar in Tampa. Then I found out that XL Energy Center had like the original one.
We did, and that was back in my smoking days when we all used to smoke. We were just talking about this, Max.
We really were.
Yeah, like 2 hours ago, we were talking about the heater days, the glory days, simpler times. But I just remember pulling up there. And I think Fallness used to as well. You don't get gravelly voices like this, just naturally. And I just remember being like, oh, we can just pull up. I mean, we used to have a smoking room in the old break room right here.
Really?
Back when this studio first opened.
That is mind-blowing to me.
So like where the pop machines are right now, that was the smoking room. And I remember smoking a cigar in there with Tom Pelissero right when I first got here in 2003. Yeah, 2003, we had a big party because we moved into this office. And it was like our old boss, Mick Anselmo, because he was a smoker, so he put a smoking room in the studio, and which was great for me as an intern because I was getting time with the president of the company, basically. And like he would know me and we'd talk about life and I'd get advice from him. But it was Tom Pelissero, me, and like Big and Rich were in there, like smoking a cigar at the country. I can't remember who. Swedberg's in the building. If he's listening, he could text me. We had a big party. Like Jessica Simpson came and played the party. It was some big country act, and somebody else came. And so we had a smoking room there, and I remember, smoking something.
Yeah.
At like 7:47 in the morning with coffee before we did a PA and Dubé broadcast.
That's
at the
hilarious. Yeah, no.
So lots been going on there.
And then they used to have this side room that looked into that lounge that people could, like, after a game, watch Fallness broadcast. But now they have the glass there, but they fogged it up, so it makes no sense.
Right.
So I don't know. But it's handy because it helps Fallness
for sure
to do all sorts of professional stuff down there. In fact, I think he has one at his house now. So a lot of times on the road, he doesn't even have to go down there because it used to drive me, like, I couldn't believe that, like, if the Wild were out in San Jose and the game ends at like 1:30 in the morning here, that Fallness is alone in a dark arena.
Right.
Like that would really scare me.
And there's times where he had to break into his own house because he forgot his key or something.
Yeah. Remember, there was one story where he, like, slept in his car outside because he didn't want to wake anybody up. Yeah,
that's exactly right. All right, we've delayed. Well, first of all, can we get the cigar room back in the XL Energy renovations?
Yeah, we should.
That I know Craig's big on. It wants to be a big hotel. It wants to be all
Craig
that.
Craig likes cigars. I mean, he should put that in.
I know A-Rod and Lori put together their own little owner's suite in one of their little renovations at Target Center. So work on that. You and Craig text and talk more than people know.
Yeah. We'll have to work that out. That'd be a great place to cut, like, right after a game.
It would be. It was great.
Lit up.
We've delayed the inevitable long enough. What's up with Kaprizov?
Yeah, I mean, he's banged up basically. I don't know where he got hurt. My assumption is in the game in Winnipeg in the D zone, on a wild power play, he and Boldy went, like, violently, like, into each other in right outside the right circle. And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, if they didn't get up, that would, like, be the end of the season.
Those two.
And then we find out that he was, not that he was sore against in the last game against Chicago, and then obviously he's not playing tonight. So the news from John Hines today sounded encouraging. They don't think it's major. I don't think he skated today, though, which makes me a little concerned that he would be able to play Sunday. But we'll see if the Wild practice tomorrow, which I would think they would, even though they're landing at like 2:30 in the morning, just because they haven't practiced the last 3 days. I would think that they're going to still have, even if they got to push practice back tomorrow. So we'll get word tomorrow if he's on the ice. Eric Sinek is getting close. If they practice tomorrow, I think there's a really good chance he returns Sunday. If they don't practice tomorrow, would that stop things? I don't know. I mean, the good thing about the Wild, so years ago, before Andy Ness existed,
the skating guru.
Yeah, like you always had a guy, you just knew that a player had to practice for like a week and a half before he would ever come back in the lineup. And now Andy puts these guys, he skates them so hard that they use that essentially as their practice and then a morning skate, and then that's sort of been the protocol since a lot of these guys. Now he hasn't had a full practice yet, but they need Eric Sinek back. This team, the injury that we never talk about right now is Jake Middleton. I think a case could be made that Middleton has been their best defenseman this season, their most consistent. And if you think about it, he got hurt in the first 40 seconds against Edmonton, and Edmonton was really at the beginning of this funk. Right. And so I think it's a huge loss. I remember texting a mutual friend of Jake, and somebody that I know was friends with Jake the other day, or at the night that this happened. I said, if this is major with Jake, this could really be a major problem for the Wild. And it turned out that he had hand surgery the next day. So, they haven't been good since that. And he's just, he's so important to their transition game, getting that puck up ice, obviously defending. And then, heck, he's been their best goal scorer on the back end. He's the only guy that scored against the Jets this year in 3 games. So
Montgomery Gentry was the country act. Montgomery Gentry. Swedberg did text me. It's critical information. So yeah, Tom Pelissero. Next time you see .com Tom on NFL Network, just know that we shared a cigar with Montgomery Gentry. They were drinking something that was not of this world.
I think it's more amazing to me that Fallness hasn't texted either of us. Like, that's a rare time that Fallness isn't listening.
If I saw a picture of you and Tom Pelissero smoking a cigar, I would think it was AI. Like, that's how foreign that image in my mind seems to me.
And I want to say this was 03. So I definitely had at least one earring still going. Because I used to have 3.
What was Palacero? Was he like 12 years old in 03?
He was a year older than me.
Yeah.
He's 2 years older than me, I think, or about 1 year in age.
Yeah.
And so I just got in here as an intern. He'd been here maybe 6 months or so doing writing and things like that. And we didn't know each other in high school that well. We kind of knew of each other.
Oh, you're both Edina guys?
Yes. So we were connecting about that a little bit and having a cigar with Montgomery Gentry. Somebody texted in to the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line 64686. Was that when Corey Cove embarrassed himself in front of Jessica Simpson? Not that night. May have been the next day. But Jessica that year came through here like 3 or 4 times. She was doing the show with Nick Lachey. So she was here a lot. Ashley, her sister, also came in a lot around that time. It was a different time, Russo.
Wow.
We've been here a long time.
You guys saw the cool acts.
Yeah, right at the tail end.
Yeah.
And then
I've been here. I've seen like the script here, and like is it Glenn Phillips? Who's the?
That sounds right. I don't know.
Philip Phillips.
Yeah, Philip.
Those
Phillips.
are like you guys see Jessica Simpson here. Wow,
that was a big time. Yeah, it was a great party, and it was like my first month here as an intern. Like, this is the greatest place ever.
I'm smoking cigars.
I'm never
seeing
leaving.
Jessica Simpson,
and I've never left, and I have no plans to leave.
I think it's amazing that the radio station's still in the same place. Like in an industry where stations move around all the time.
Yeah,
at least they did when I was in Florida. For you guys to be just on this,
we're hanging on.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
We're hanging on. Well, we painted all the walls red. We can't leave.
You got
now.
new mic flags.
Yeah, we did. We got new mic flags. We got new mics. Got a new board. Everything's coming together for us.
Nice.
More text to the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line 64686. Russo's here for the next couple of segments as well, talking wild. Who knows what else with Russo Radio.
You wake up, put on your Ray-Ban Meta glasses. Classic style, innovative tech. You're living all in. You realize you need coffee, desperately. So you say,
Hey, Meta, how do I make a latte?
To make a latte, brew 2 shots of espresso.
after Meta AI gets you caffeinated, you start walking to work, and you need a soundtrack.
Hey, Meta, play hip-hop music.
With the built-in camera, you snap a pic of a dope mural on the side of a building that you think is worth sharing.
Hey, Meta, text my last photo to Eva.
Sending message.
After work, you head to meet some friends.
Hey, nice glasses.
Ray-Ban Meta glasses, the next generation of AI glasses. Just say, hey, Meta, to harness the power of Meta AI. Listen to music, make hands-free calls with open-ear audio and built-in microphones, and so much more. All while staying present to the world around you. Shop Ray-Ban Meta glasses at meta.com/smartglasses.
Tune into Wild Wednesday each week for your chance to win tickets to see your Minnesota Wild in an upcoming game. Wild Wednesdays are presented by Jim Beam, a crowd pleaser since 1795.
Russo Radio for another couple of segments in studio. Gaardsy in for Barrero today. Max Fuller here as well. You're heading out for your big appearance here in a couple of minutes, right?
I should be.
Casper's and Egan.
Casper's and Egan Wolves Watch Party. Come hang out with your boy.
If you don't want to go to Egan, you can go to Tom's Watch Bar in downtown Minneapolis and come hang with me.
I should do that since I'm not covering the game.
You should.
Yeah.
People'd love to hear your
I do
wild
have plans, but and it has to do with a cigar.
I understand. We're
going to my cigar club.
We're 7 to 9 if you get done with that early. We'll be there from 7 to 9.
Nice.
All right, we gave you I think enough said on the TV show. It was on a Friday, so it was the day after a Thursday loss that the Wild had suffered. And so we're getting ready to talk Wild on the show, and we read your gamer from the night before.
Oh, on enough said? That's great.
And just as background, and I woke up, and I think I even said this on TV or radio the next day, because I watched that Wild game that they lost. And I said, okay, they're not going to win every game. Things happen. They've been playing pretty well. And so I go to sleep, and I wake up, and like I always do, I check The Athletic right when I wake up on the app to see what's going. First of all, I get an alert, so I can't avoid it. And I start reading, and I go, how long was I sleeping? Because Russo now has us, it's over. It's like 2011.
I was just giving a history lesson. That's it.
And I said, what? I know that I'm, been sleeping better recently, but how long did I actually sleep? Where I think they just lost last night, and now all of a sudden the season might be over. Now I'll say things have not trended very well since then.
Yeah, it turned out to be.
The story's aged pretty well, but I mean, obviously it's the injuries. Now I'll say,
I mean, first of all, just to be clear, it was a tongue-in-cheek type of lead to just give everybody a history lesson. And the reason why I wrote it was because it's just the irony that they had just, like, you know, it was the same exact road swing. It was the latest they had ever been first in the league.
Right.
You know, and it was to the day that they lost those guys, Bouchard in Winnipeg and all this. I mean, they lost like 5 guys in 2 days. and so I was just given, like, you know, now there's, you know, this did happen the last time that they were, and here they are equally as devastated by injury, and it's just been one after the other since. So, I don't think that history is going to follow suit here, but you're right. I mean, they've, you know, lost what, 6 out of 8 since, and just keep on losing significant pieces. So, but you're right. I don't think I necessarily had to write it.
But things hit you. Yeah. Things hit you a certain way.
Yeah, just there was a lot there. You know, I know that a couple people in the organization weren't thrilled with the article. So
that got back to you, huh?
Yeah.
Word got back to you?
Normally, like, what I write seems to sometimes go into an ether with them, which is good.
Yeah.
That one I did hear back.
Yeah, it's amazing what trips people up.
Yeah.
You know, all the nice things you write, and then it's the one.
Like, somebody said to me, you know, our fans think that the shoe is always going to drop or the rug's going to be pulled out from because of you.
Yeah, it's because we've all lived here and watched. It's not just the Wild.
That was my point. You know?
That's what I always say. You know, I get this from Gopher coaches. I get this from other college coaches. Like, they'll say, why are, like, Minnesotans are always just waiting for something bad to happen? You guys need to change how you think. I go, well, how are we going to do that when something bad usually happens?
Well, it was just, again, like, you look at it, they lost to Edmonton. They just come back from L.A. and Phoenix, technically L.A. and Utah, but it was L.A. and Phoenix last time. It was like all these just different parallels, and it was the 1-year anniversary the last time they were the best team in the league. So I was just given sort of a history lesson. Yeah. And next thing I know, it's actually started to happen. Now, the difference is they lost 8 in a row then, and this time they've won a couple in between. But, you know, I know you just had Gessling on, and so Gessling was the beat writer then. He started that day he started the day after what I'm talking about.
What a time.
And they were the best team in the league. It was Mike Yo's first year. And with Gessling at the helm for the Pioneer Press at the time, they had won 15 games the rest of the year. It's the only time in NHL history that a team was leading the league in mid-December and missed the playoffs. And Gessling got to document it.
Well, and Joe Smith and you might get to do it again with how things are going.
And actually, if you think about it, Joe got back from paternity leave right when this started, too. Right. He showed up at that Edmonton morning skate, and it's been downhill ever since.
But it is, and I said this today on Enough Said, Pierre Nugent and I are doing the show tonight with Lori because Dan's off. It's why, it sounds simple, but it's why the hot start was just paramount.
Oh, absolutely.
Because things are going to happen in a hockey season. It's 82 games. It's hockey. Injuries are coming up. No team goes through unscathed, right? It's nearly impossible. And so it's why when we talked to you opening night at the Green Carpet event, the whole thing was they got a tough road trip here coming out. You got to find a way to tread water. They did way more than that. And so I'm not saying, it's fine, everything's going to be good, but that's why big starts like that are so critical.
Absolutely. I mean, 22 games of points in their first 26 and 18 of those wins, and they've needed it. And because every team is going to have a blip. And, I do think that, John Hines had a really good message after the Chicago win, or it might have been the loss right before, where he basically said there's been more good than bad this year, and we all got to keep that in perspective. I'm paraphrasing a bit.
Yep.
And it wasn't just a message to the fans and the media. It was a message inside that locker room, is that, like, it's, this is a tough stretch. Like, tonight will be extremely tough in Dallas. But, you got to just realize that this happens in a hockey season. But the key is you got to get out of it. And here's my only concerns, okay? Because I always bring up the concerns, is the way the Wild were playing in those first 26 games. When you have as many injuries as they have, you lose that muscle memory. And right now they are playing unlike anywhere close to the way they were playing in that first quarter of the season. Even the wins against Philly and Chicago, they had to eke those out. Right. They were east-west, bad tendencies going into their game. And so when they get these guys back, it's not just going to magically come back. They are going to have to repair their game. And the problem is that you're going to have other injuries in that stretch. Middleton's still gone for probably another month at least. Yeah. He's I'm hearing late January is what they're looking at, even though he's eligible to come back January 7th. So like this is not going to be easy. And so you want to get Kaprizov. Like especially if it's a minor injury, I'm fully on board with them not bringing him to Dallas, even if it's just be like, you know what, this is going to be a tough one. Let's get you healthy. But I think that's the thing here is they got to make sure their guys are back, because the most important thing is playing well going into the playoffs and being healthy going into the playoffs. And you just don't want to, deal with the repercussions of rushing guys back. But they've got to find their game again. And, the other concern there is that they, in this time of year is when you start practicing less and less and less and less,
right.
And so you're not going to have a lot of practices to go find that game. It's going to have to be a lot on video and things like that. And so, I'll be interested how this goes, but they've been a good hockey team all year long. And they've just, regardless of tonight being tough, basically the circumstance of having to wake up this morning at 5:30, 6 a.m. to fly down there at 7.
That's still really strange to me.
It's so stupid.
Like they do with the bye week too, right? Same things. Like you can't go until you go.
It's so ridiculous. And the Wild are the ones that have the short shrift right here. Everybody else that plays tonight that on the road that couldn't fly till this morning have hour flights, and the NHL puts them on a 2.5. Like they're going to be on a flight today for 3 hours longer than they were to play the game. Because they have to take the round trip back tonight. So it's just, it's ridiculous after not practicing for 3 days. So tonight's going to be tough, but they've got to just slowly but surely, you got a game against Ottawa, you got a game against Nashville before going on the road to a couple tough buildings. That's usually also tough for them in Washington and Raleigh. And so we'll see how it goes. But I think that they can get it back, but it's not just going to magically happen with the reappearance of Joel Eriksson Ek. They've got to rediscover their game, and that's been missing.
You do bring up a good point that the mythical training camp days are over, right? The tone was totally set in that training camp for how they played.
Yeah.
And now, the practice time thing is real. Like the Wolves have had the same thing where, they've got 3 or 4 days where they can really work on some stuff. That stuff doesn't happen now moving forward once the games really pick up.
Yeah, and John likes to practice these guys. He does good work in video, but he also doesn't want to inundate them with video and have these guys just sitting watching hours of video. So, this is the dog days of the season. They've got to get themselves healthy, but I do think that there's been just a lot of real positiveness to this team this year, in a year that we still think is a transition year to getting rid of the buyouts, and really starting next year is when things now are full steam ahead.
Well, let's pick up with that when we come back with Russo. He's in studio for another segment. Lavelle E. Neal III is going to join about 20 minutes from now. Questions for Russo. Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line is 64686. As he mentioned, the Wild are in Dallas for a game tonight. That follows us 6:45 for the Kevin Fallness pregame show and puck drop at 7 o'clock. More Russo in studio after.
You wake up, put on your Ray-Ban Meta glasses. Classic style, innovative tech. You're living all in. You realize you need coffee, desperately. So you say,
Hey, Meta, how do I make a latte?
To make a latte, brew 2 shots of espresso.
after Meta AI gets you caffeinated, you start walking to work, and you need a soundtrack.
Hey, Meta, play hip-hop music.
With the built-in camera, you snap a pic of a dope mural on the side of a building that you think is worth sharing.
Hey, Meta, text my last photo to Eva.
Sending message.
After work, you head to meet some friends.
Hey, nice glasses.
Ray-Ban Meta glasses, the next generation of AI glasses. Just say, hey, Meta, to harness the power of Meta AI. Listen to music, make hands-free calls with open-ear audio and built-in microphones, and so much more, all while staying present to the world around you. Shop Ray-Ban Meta glasses at meta.com/smartglasses.
One more segment with Russo Radio. Gaardsy in for Barrero today. Max Fuller here as well momentarily. He's about to head out to Egan for his appearance. I've got one downtown Tom's Watch Bar tonight,
Yes,
7 to 9. Casper's, Egan.
Casper's and Egan, come party with your boy. You can even touch the fro if you want to. Special offer. Only, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'll let you touch the fro.
If you come to Tom's Watch Bar, don't touch me. Please don't touch me. We can shake hands, we can dap, we can do something like that, but leave what's left of my hair alone. Russo Radio's in studio for another segment. Lavelle E. Neal III here as well. We should mention some sad news, some sad breaking news that has been kind of trickling in here for the last couple of hours that Greg Gumbel, longtime broadcaster, actually spent more than 50 years in sports broadcasting, has died of cancer at the age of 78. That according to his family. His wife and daughter released a statement with CBS Sports where he worked most recently. He passed away peacefully, surrounded by much love. After a courageous battle with cancer, Greg approached his illness like one would expect he would, with stoicism, grace, and positivity. He leaves behind a legacy of love, inspiration, and dedication to over 50 extraordinary years in the sports broadcast industry, and his iconic voice will never be forgotten. Most of his career was with CBS, did a little bit with ESPN as well, a little bit on NBC, but certainly CBS for my money, the March Madness hosting. Selection Sunday, it was a big miss when he wasn't there this past season, when he stepped away to deal with something. I think we can all surmise it was this battle with cancer. So, unfortunately, Greg Gumbel, 78 years old, passing away today from cancer. He's mythic on this show, Russo, for the Final Four. It was the 2015 championship game where Wisconsin had a big lead over Duke. Mm-hmm. And then Tyus Jones, actually Grayson Allen, got things going for the Duke Blue Devils. That was in Indy. I was there with AJ. And Grayson Allen kind of got Duke off the mat, and Tyus Jones, Apple Valley's own, closed the door, shut it down. Duke wins the title over Wisconsin. And they throw it to, I'm assuming, Tracy Wolfson, doing the sideline reporter interview with the losing coach. In the locker room, it's always very quiet. And Bo Ryan just lit the world on fire. He was furious at the officials. He was mad at the refs. He was pissed about everything. He just couldn't believe that they ended up, that the refs decided the game. He goes, we always shoot more free throws than the other team. What do we have? 2? Could not have been less gracious. And they kick it back to the desk, and this was Greg Gumbel.
Bo Ryan, classy and gracious in defeat.
There's no way Greg watched that. There's no way Greg saw that. He just assumed, because every coach for the history of time has been classy and gracious in defeat. And so we've played that forever, because he couldn't have been more of a jackass in that situation. And poor Greg Gumbel, obviously
his IFB was off.
Yeah, the producer must have been talking in his ear. But huge loss.
Well, as you mentioned, iconic voice. Him and his brother, who I remember his brother got over cancer, 3 or 4 years ago as well. And very, very sad. Very sad.
Let's wrap up where we started, because people are kind of coming and going. The Wild are in Dallas tonight, taking on the Stars. And one of the tests for this team, and we've talked about it, is they've beaten a lot of teams. The top teams in the West that they're with, they haven't had the greatest. Like tonight was supposed to be kind of a good challenge, right? Theoretically, if both teams were healthy. But Kaprizov's not there, or he's not going to play. So for those that may have missed kind of the update you gave at the top right around 5 o'clock, what do we think about this one? Obviously, he left another game earlier where he went down the tunnel, right? And everybody panicked, came back a little bit later. But it sounds like they're, caution is the word here for why he's not on this particular trip.
Hines was encouraging this morning, thinking that it's going to be a minor thing, that he's just dealing with soreness, and that they just decided that it'd be better safe than sorry. He wasn't on the ice though today, and so we'll see if he skates tomorrow and what the chances are for Sunday. But it doesn't sound serious. I think that if I had a guess, I think he got banged up in Winnipeg when he collided with Boldy there on the D zone on the power play. That is just my guess, but I don't know. But obviously tonight is tough. To your point, they're 2-7-1 against Western Conference playoff teams. They haven't won in regulation against Dallas in 12 games. I think they have 3 wins in that stretch in the last 11, but it's been 12 games since they had a regulation win. And they're 0-13-2 in the last 2 years against Colorado, Winnipeg, and Dallas, and they haven't played the Avs yet this year. So, they do. I mean, they have a lot to prove against these teams, and it wouldn't be such a big deal if these aren't the teams that you're going to play in the first round of the playoffs, right? I mean, that's just the way that the NHL divisional playoffs are formatted. So you are going to most likely, unless the Wild won the conference and played an 8th team that was out of the Pacific, you are most likely playing Dallas, Colorado, or Winnipeg in the first round. So that you'd like to win a couple of those in the regular season,
get a few on the board,
just to get to some confidence going into those games. So you just wish. I mean, the one thing, and I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but we never ever get to see them play these teams with their real lineup. I mean, they are always missing Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, or a significant player. I mean, that was what happened. Remember last year around this time, they went into home and home against Dallas and played against Winnipeg and played 2 games against Dallas without all these guys. And so you just, wish, the game against Dallas earlier this season, they were missing their guys. So you do wish that we could see them fully healthy and then in a real, situation where you're going to look like you have some sort of lineup that is requisite.
Commiserate, yeah. They just snapped an
there you go.
18-period streak of goals that were either scored or assisted on by Kaprizov.
Yeah, or just him on the ice.
Him on the ice.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a little bit better. It's a little bit better. Not sure about much. So I guess
exactly.
The question is, the obvious question is, where do they get it from if he's not out there?
It's a good question because they've lacked depth scoring all year long. If you think about it, if you buy into the whole expected goals thing and all that, I mean,
which Bill Guerin does not, by the way.
Yeah, and
clear with Dan a few weeks ago on that.
Well, I'm as much a dinosaur as Bill, and I also don't buy into a lot of it, but I will say I use it sometimes to confirm some stuff. And one thing about this is that all year long, even when the Wild were one of the best teams in the league, it was the numbers did sound the alarms that eventually, if Kaprizov dried up,
right,
that it would be a major problem because they just weren't generating a ton of chances. Now they went on they were 32nd for the first couple months of the season, and then they've started to inch their way up to 23rd or 4th in expected goals generated and things like that. But they've got to get scoring from other places, and this is why being an LTI doesn't help, because I think that Bill Guerin does and did, but maybe more past tense, wished that by the trade deadline he can go add a significant piece, whether that's a Brock Nelson or somebody else. And when you're in LTI and you're not accruing space, that makes it almost impossible to be able to pull off a deal like that. So this might, as Bill Guerin said on the day they got Travis Dermott, these injuries might change their plans going into the deadline, where there's nothing they can do. So we'll see, but they've got to. I mean, Ryan Hartman's got 1 goal in his last 24 games, no points in his last 15.
Right.
Freddie Gaudreau, 2 goals in his last 16. Marcus Foligno, 1 goal with a goalie in net in his last 21. Johansson's in a big funk. Kuznetsov never scores. It's a major problem. And then you add in the fact that Matt Boldy is in a big time funk.
That's where I wanted to go next.
Years. Yeah, 16 games.
Because he was pretty hot early.
Yeah.
And it seemed like they had kind of a 2-horse race here with Kaprizov and him. So he's dried up.
Yeah, Boldy was on pace for 40 goals and 80 points, and that's definitely dried up. Now, a lot of it is Eriksson Ek being out of the lineup. I mean, Ryan Hartman being in a funk, so Ryan Hartman was his center for a lot of those games, and Freddie Gaudreau goes up to center. I think all of us know that these guys aren't your prototypical number 2 center, and then that's messed up with Johansson too. So it feels like Boldy's been alone on an island for a while, but on the power play, he hasn't been very good either. And it just seems like he's back into playing East-West hockey, not getting a lot of shot attempts, which is very atypical of Boldy. I mean, usually he's an 8-shot attempt guy a game person. And then I feel like he's been soft on pucks too. And just, really ever since he was named to the Four Nations team, he's just been a huge funk. And then obviously the penalties, which he has cleaned up, lately. So tonight, being on the top line with Rossi and Matt Zuccarello he might feel a little more supported, from having players on his line that are more like-minded as he is. And that might help him. But then to that point, even if that top line scores, who's scoring on your second and third and fourth lines? Your third line tonight's going to be probably, I would assume Foligno, Trent. I'm not down in Dallas, but Foligno, Trenyan, and probably Kuznetsov. Your second line tonight is probably Johansson, Gaudreau, and Ryan Hartman. And then you got an all-Iowa fourth line with Gauntz, Jones, and Devin Shore. This is going to be a tough game tonight.
Lock it in.
Yeah.
Lock in defensively.
Part of me, half jokingly, but not even, maybe a quarter jokingly.
Okay.
Part of me wondered if they were going to just throw Fleury in to be the sacrificial lamb tonight. This is going to be a tough game as it is. And now with their lineup, you just almost wondered, especially with Gus coming off the injury, like maybe tonight's not the best time to throw Gustafson in there.
Or maybe they need him. Maybe he steals one tonight and then changes the whole trajectory.
And I'm sure that's part of it. I'm sure John Hines is sitting there and trying to do everything possible to get his guys thinking they can win a hockey game when they know that tonight they're up against it.
You alluded to it a little bit the last segment, and we don't spend a ton of time on it, but we got a minute or two here to do it. The fact that the buyout numbers go away, the dead cap goes away next year. Have you allowed yourself to dream about having another free agency chase like we did all the way back in 2012?
I don't think it's going to be like that because, the big thing, even though his cap number won't count for next season, they've got to re-sign Kaprizov to a mega contract, and that will eat into you could do. Because, when you sign a free agent, it's not just going to be a one-year deal. It's going past. So I think it's going to be very hard until we know what the cap is going to be, not only next season, but the season after. I think it's going to be hard. I mean, if that cap, there's any way that in 2 years it's going to be like $110 million ceiling, well, all of a sudden, Paul Theophanis is not going to be like, all right, we'll take 15.
Right.
He's going to want 18.
Right.
Or more. And so I think that's tough. They've got to re-sign Rossi. Rossi's getting more expensive. So I don't, and remember when they were planning on the buyouts evaporating, it was all under the belief that they were going to have like an $8 million or, that go out and spend for a real top player. Well, they weren't expecting that Brock Faber would be the revelation that he was, and he gets 8.5 on his next deal. So, I don't think they're going to have a ton of money as much as everybody thinks, but there is an edict. I mean, it's been said publicly by Craig Leopold that he'd like a free agent or two. So, we'll see. I know that Wild fans, a lot of them, tweet me all the time about Brock Nelson, Brock Besser, players like that. I think that Vancouver would be foolish to try to let Besser go, but if he is somebody that's leaving, I think the Wild would be interested. But Brock Nelson is somebody that's legit. Like,
I've heard his name a lot recently.
Yeah, it's not even just that the Wild, I think, would be willing to get him at the deadline if they can. I still think that there's so much respect from Bill Guerin into his overall game. Obviously, at 34, you can't give him multi years. But I think that he's somebody that they feel could win big draws, kill a penalty, which would be nice. And
I didn't bring it up this time.
And score. I mean, he's battle tested, and there's a reason why he's on the Four Nations team with Bill Guerin running the show.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great to see you.
Yeah,
glad your key card works.
Yeah, I was shocked. You never know.
Have fun tonight. If you get bored, come over to Tom's Watch Bar, downtown Minneapolis.
No problem.
We'll be there till 9.
I'm going to go to my car if for some reason Lavelle forgets, because we know there's a 50-50 chance, or that his phone's not working.
That's it.
You just call me on my cell. I'll do another segment.
The problem, Lavelle never forgets. It's just his phone never works.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be all right if you forgot every once in a while.
Yeah, and he can't even blame it on the Star Tribune, because I used to have a Star Tribune phone and it worked fine.
The only time Lavelle's had crystal clear communication is number 1. On SIP, no, that never worked. When he was in Puerto Rico for a Twins series years ago, somehow that worked perfectly. And when he was in wherever the Olympics were, China, I think, and that cost us like $15,000 because we accidentally called his hotel and didn't think about the long distance.
Man.
that
I'm
was
sure it was worth it. He's great on the radio.
Yeah, his 3 Olympics, and he couldn't even cover the Olympics because he thought he might have tested for COVID or something. It was something weird where it cost us a lot of money, but the phone connection was great all the way.
Remember when he was at our cigar club? He and I remember the same cigar club, and he did it from the bathroom. He did an entire segment.
It worked well there, too.
And I finally texted you and Barrero, and I'm like, you got to ask right now on the air, Lavelle, where he's doing this.
Said he was in a closet.
Yeah.
Didn't say
he was
water
not in a closet. He was in the bathroom. Yeah.
Thank you. Have fun tonight.
All right, see ya.
That is Russo Radio in studio. Speaking of Lavelle, we expect to be joined by the Star Tribune columnist when we come back, his regular Friday appearance on Bumper to Bumper.
You wake up, put on your Ray-Ban Meta glasses. Classic style, innovative tech. You're living all in. You realize you need coffee, desperately. So you say,
Hey, Meta, how do I make a latte?
To make a latte, brew 2 shots of espresso.
after Meta AI gets you caffeinated, you start walking to work, and you need a soundtrack.
Hey, Meta, play hip-hop music.
With the built-in camera, you snap a pic of a dope mural on the side of a building that you think is worth sharing.
Hey, Meta, text my last photo to Eva.
Sending message.
After work, you head to meet some friends.
Hey, nice glasses.
Ray-Ban Meta glasses, the next generation of AI glasses. Just say, hey, Meta, to harness the power of Meta AI. Listen to music, make hands-free calls with open-ear audio and built-in microphones, and so much more. All while staying present to the world around you. Shop Ray-Ban Meta glasses at meta.com/smartglasses.
Friday show, which means it's time for Lavelle E. Neal III on Bumper to Bumper. He's brought to you by Allery's Bar and Barbecue in downtown St. Paul, your home of free parking and wild shuttles. He's on the Connecticut Water Systems hotline now. Gaardsy in for Barrero today. We are out, I want to say, about 20 minutes from now. Final segment of the show with Lavelle E. Neal III. Wobble, how are you? Just got to pot the phones up. Are they potted up over there?
Where he was on with Barrero, and he went out for like 30 seconds at a time, and Dan didn't know what was going on with him. So it's not like he has a perfect run with telephone connections himself. Two, I was hoping that you, at least on my behalf, object to Carl Gershman having a pin the tail on a Bears fan contest during this Packer fan Caligula next week, but you didn't speak up on that one either.
Well, I was so off-put by everything else. Well, first of all, I did speak up. I said because he mentioned the Bears fan looks like Ditka, and they all do, men and women. I did speak up. I did have your back there that was an unfair thing to say. So you're rewriting history a little bit here, Wobbs.
That's not much revision. He shouldn't have that game scheduled. There's a bunch of other Packer games, cheese wheel rolling, paint thinner drinking, all kinds of other stuff that they can have at Packer fan Caligula.
All right. Well, so you're not going New Year's Eve to one of the nicest hotels outside of Madison, apparently, for PackerFanConnections.com. You're not going to make it?
I didn't even know there was a hotel in Madison.
Unfortunately,
I guess they have to for Badgers games.
Yeah, I've stayed at most of them. There's actually a really nice one called the Edgewater, but I don't think that's where PackerFanConnections.com is posting up on New Year's. I don't think that's in the budget. All right, so did you get everything off your chest that you needed to?
Yeah, I did.
All right, let's talk Vikings-Packers because we just spent the last 45 minutes talking hockey and other things with Russo Radio. Spent a lot of time, obviously, on this game. Biggest game for my money that I can remember between these two teams. And, yes, that does include the playoff games because I never felt like whoever won that game, certainly on the Vikings side, would be, Super Bowl contender type bit. The closest thing, I guess, would be 2004, the Moss Mooning game, because you just never knew with that team, what their ceiling was going to be. But for my money, Wobbs, this is as exciting and as compelling a matchup as these two teams have had in a really long time in their 64-year history of playing against each other. So as you've handicapped this one and taken a look at it, give me a couple of headlines that you will be watching for or that will determine, you think, this game Sunday at U.S. Bank Stadium.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up because I got a question here because I was actually writing my column for Sunday today, and I was trying to go through late season games between the Packers and Vikings with big implications. I didn't go all the way back to Christian Ponder. I went back a couple years ago when the Vikings needed to win to make the playoffs, but they had to start Sean Mannion, and they ended up getting rolled like 41 to 17 or something like that.
I feel like that was a Sunday night game because Collinsworth, I remember. I feel like that was a Sunday night game because Collinsworth did his best to try to convince us in the first quarter that the moment was not going to be too big for Sean Mannion, which of course it was. So I think I'm remembering that right.
The other one was just a few years ago. Remember the week where the Vikings plane got stuck in the snow in Appleton?
Yes.
And then during the game, your boy Xavier Rhodes and Victorious Newman just decided not to follow Zimmer's game plan and did not follow Jordy Nelson in the first half, and he just torched them.
Yes,
and ended up losing that one.
I remember that. Yes, remember it well.
There were playoff implications in that game too. In terms of consequences, this is a huge one, bigger than recent Packer Viking games for sure. Because I guess Gessling was telling me there's a crazy scenario out there where the last two games could go Packers, Lions, and then the games in the postseason could go Packers, Lions if the Packers end up with the 8th seed. But I thought the worst they could get would be a 7th seed, which would send them to Philadelphia. So there's some crazy stuff out there. And my column for Sunday is on Sam Darnold because I said he went from being a placeholder for J.J. McCarthy to changing the whole narrative of his career. And now he's starting to build a legacy now with this fourth quarter magic against the Seahawks. And facing the Packers when he's playing the best football of his career could lead to more of that. And I'm sure the Vikings fans would be happy to see that on Sunday at U.S. Bank Stadium if he can lead the Vikings to victory and have some late-game heroics like he did against the Seahawks. So that's one thing I'm really looking forward to. I don't know about the running game that the Packers employed with Josh Jacobs. I'm curious to see how the Vikings handle that, and especially if Ivan Pace is going to play, that could be a big plus in their side.
Well,
so
you mentioned
there's a bunch of things. There's a bunch of things I can look at.
Well, you mentioned the Darnold piece of it. It is going to be interesting because I've said the last couple of weeks I wouldn't mess around with this, and Gessling and I kind of talked about it in the 4 o'clock hour. I'm at the point where I absolutely bring him back on the franchise tag and see what you got for another year. You don't have to rush JJ. I know we got to stay present and be where our feet are and all those cliches, but I'm not letting this dude walk out the door after the year that he's had. And maybe I'm foolish to not see this thing play out, but the sample for me, Wobbs, has been so good, and he's just, it feels like kind of hitting his stride again with KOC, that I don't know if I have an interception number or bad throw number that would change my mind in the next couple of weeks and then whatever happens in the postseason. But just to see the improvements that he's made and the vibe that he has with the head coach, and obviously the vibe that he has with the team, you can tell that they believe in him. I mean, when he gets the ball, when they get the ball back with 4 minutes left and they're down and they need it, like nobody blinked in that situation. They got the penalty that obviously jump-started the whole thing, but a couple of plays later, they're in the end zone and JJ's got another touchdown. Like, I've seen enough to explore it again and throw whatever plan you had going into the season out the window. What about you?
Well, I was at practice yesterday, and JJ talked about it, TJ talked about it, AJ talked about it, just about Darnold took a shot on that play before the touchdown pass.
Yes.
And, they've seen him get hit before and starts looking around, but they're at the point now where they're like, he's getting up. So he has, proven to them how tough and resilient he is to bounce back and make a money throw on the next play. So, yeah, they all have a great feeling about this guy, and that comes into play. And I think everything has to be on the table. The J.J. McCarthy succession plan may have to be delayed for a year, which isn't the worst thing in the world. And yes, if you think a window's open for you to be relevant or seriously relevant in the NFC, then you got to consider bringing Sam back for one more year. It's going to be interesting what his agent feels about all this, because his agent may be like, "Hey, this is your time to cash in.
Yeah,
it's time for 3 years, $40 million a year. There's a lot of teams that need a quarterback. We're not going to take a 1-year deal from the Vikings," and that could just end things right then and there. And if I know Vikings, I would franchising him definitely would be an option. You could trade him and get assets back, or keep him and pay him for 1 year. He may be upset about that, but then he'll just have to wait a year to get his $45 million a year payday.
Well, and he gets 40-something million right off the top if they franchise him. And if he does it again or comes anywhere close to what he's doing, the Vikings are probably then the Vikings are probably giving it to him. Well, the Vikings might not, but because they probably do. But they do have a decision to make there, and he's going to get it from somebody, because everybody is always looking for a quarterback. It's just, including the Vikings historically. So it makes no sense to me to say, because this feels different than Case Keenum, Wobbs. It feels different than that year. Just how he's brought him back, how he's performed, how he's developed. The Keenum thing obviously was a little bit of smoke and mirrors, as fun as that run was, and that was built on a defense that was absolutely dominant that year. And it, obviously took a Minneapolis Miracle to get him into the NFC Championship game. But given how hard it is to find one of these guys, I just don't understand how it's good business sense to just let one of them walk out the door, regardless of how much you love J.J. McCarthy.
Exactly. I think you got to be prudent and smart about how you go about doing this. And I don't know if KFC was the head coach when Case Keenum made that run with them. Maybe it'd be different. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's in a good setup here with an offensive-minded head coach, and the organization clearly wants to win. And if they end up getting the number one seed in the NFC and they end up making a little bit of a run and they get at least to the NFC title game, how can you justify moving on from the quarterback? You know what I'm saying?
Right. I can't. I can't. I know it's a discussion that they don't really have to decide on for a couple of months at least, but it's certainly worth thinking about. And a lot of people have been talking about it. We've shied away from it today, but since you're writing on it and his legacy's kind of been shifted here a little bit, I think it's important to bring it up. Go ahead.
And I hate talking about it, to be honest with you, because it's so Minnesotan to think about worst case scenarios that are 6 or 8 months down the road.
Yeah.
Instead of enjoying this moment, a moment that no one saw coming at the beginning of the year. The team's 13-2. They
It's
could end up
unbelievable.
being 15-2. This is ridiculous. What's going on with this squad? Just ride the wave until it crashes or throws you off.
I'm with you.
Go ahead.
Well, and unexpected great seasons, to me, are the best kind. When you go in with no expectation and have them so wildly exceeded. But it is interesting, and I talked about this earlier. Harrison Phillips last night on the Vikings podcast show with Tatum Everett that we run as I was driving home mentioned that it is different, and it was pretty honest to hear a player speak like this, Wobbs, that it's easy to run off a bunch of games like they did at the beginning of the season when nobody was believing in them and they were under the radar, and you've got the sixth Fox crew on your game, and you can just kind of go about your own business. It's a different vibe when all of a sudden Tom Brady's here and it's 325 and the number one seed is attainable. I'm curious to see how everybody, certainly Darnold is at the top of the list, but everybody on the Vikings handles what's going to be a different kind of pressure really from here on out, and certainly not exclusively on Sunday.
And according to Seifert, I think, did he tweet that it's going to be about 23,000 Packer fans?
23% of the tickets, according to Vivid Seats, they believe are going to Packer fans. That's the analytic. Vivid Seats seat tracking, I assume with zip codes and area codes and everything that goes with it, have about 23% of the 70-ish thousand. I'm not going to do that math. People know that I can't do it. Have them. Basically, they're guessing are going to be Packer fans, which does seem high. Does seem like it's a high number, but it also makes sense. It's holidays. People can make a lot of money right now selling these tickets. I would do it. I'll be honest. I would do it.
It doesn't take into consideration the Packer fans who live in this area code, in these zip codes.
That's true.
That are going to show out as well.
That's true. That's true. So they'll have to deal with that. All right, we got about a minute or two left. Give us your Jordan Love synopsis, or what's important on the Vikings defense. Can the Flonami take over Love Island on Sunday?
It's got to flow. It has to be a lava-like flow, because they're going to do jet sweeps. They're going to make sure that there's a balanced attack with the running game and trying to keep them off guard with timely passes and a couple of screen passes. And we've talked about Jordan Love and throwing off balance and jumping in the air and throwing 40-yard balls down the field. He has cut back on the number of times he has thrown into danger and has made some better, more calculated decisions, and has put the ball where the receiver can only catch it. And if he can't catch it, no one else can. I just think they're going to hit them off a couple times early. I'm glad the defense is pretty much healthy. There's going to be great battles at corner, but you've got to get some heat on Jordan Love. And if the Vikings can get out to an early lead and make Green Bay play catch up, I think that's gives them a great opportunity to walk away with a W.
Great phone connection today, Wobbs. Thanks for your flexibility today. Thanks to Allery's Bar and Barbecue. Have an outstanding weekend, and we will talk to you next week on Bumper to Bumper. Thanks, man.
Yeah, the hardcore fans still showed up at Allery's last night to watch the debacle against Seattle. Props to them, and we'll all return next week for the season finale against Green Bay.
That is Lavelle E. Neal III. Thank you, Wobbs, joining us on the Connecticut Water Systems Hotline. That does it for us tonight, believe it or not, because we've got Minnesota Vikings programming, Skull Stories to get to, and then the Wild against the Star.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
You wake up, put on your Ray-Ban Meta glasses. You're living all in. You realize you need coffee. So you say,
Hey, Meta, how do I make a latte?
Brew 2 shots of espresso.
after Meta AI gets you caffeinated, you're ready for some beats.
Hey, Meta, play hip-hop music.
You head to meet some friends, but can't remember the place.
Hey, Meta, call Eva.
Ray-Ban Meta glasses, the next generation of AI glasses. Just say, hey, Meta, to harness the power of Meta AI. Shop now at meta.com/smartglasses.
Take a deep dive into the stories making the news headlines across the world.
The news agents.
We're not just here to tell you what's happening, but why. From me, Emily Maitlis.
And me, John Sopel.
With Global's award-winning podcast, The News Agents, dropping daily, covering everything you need to know about politics and current affairs.
And The News Agents USA. They're eating the dogs, the people that came in.
Listen to The News Agents on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.